Jason.
Mr. Veitch?
Just to sum up, our revenues, I think you said, in answer to Mr. Defnall's question, our revenues exceed our expenditures.
For 07? I mean,
Now.
this shows over time that the trend is very much positive.
Okay.
But we want, let's just ask, what about 07?
Just look. Turn to page 4 and 5.
In the first section?
Yeah. That's the government-wide presentation I was telling you about, the business-oriented presentation. You can see down at the very bottom on the far right, change in net assets, that's equivalent to revenue, in this presentation, revenue in excess, or net income in the business world. You can see the beginning net assets, and you can see the ending. So that's a positive. The fund presentation on page 6 and 7. Go to the last column. You see a similar type circumstance. Total revenues in excess of excess revenues and other sources over expenditures, 67 million, resulting in an ending fund balance of 150.
What page is that?
What page?
Sorry.
6 and 7.
Six.
That's on page 6.
Seven.
Oh, I see.
Here, 7 and.
Yeah, you got to look at it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
by
I got
fold,
you.
yeah.
In between these.
Well, from time to time, do we use some of the 24 mil tax money to pay operating expenses?
Yes.
Anything wrong with that? Or sinister, or
I don't
breaking
think so. Now,
promises
we
that
just
you
talk-
made?
I mean, I go by what's on the ballot. Even if you apply the logic that the 10 mills was reserved in some way, we spent well in excess and have had debt service for years alone, debt service alone that exceeded what 10 mills has produced. So it kind of works either way.
Well, tell me again, and this will be my last question on this, but I need to know, what did we do with the county money, the 85.6?
If you look on page 7 in the debt service column,
I got it.
you can see the inflow of that, the 87. That's actually the 85.6 plus interest earnings from the time we receive the money. You can see the ending fund balance in there, so it's sitting there. But with that said, within the schedule that we worked out with Jefferson County, we had to give them a model for the expenditure of the money. We reimbursed ourselves back to the initial date of the tax under a reimbursement resolution. So essentially, that debt service fund is split into twos. You got about 34 million in a local fund, and you got the residual, I think it's about 54 in a county fund. So it's more or less changing its identity within that overall debt service fund.
In referring again to Mr. Anderson's article, he doesn't imply it. He says school leaders break promises. Well, I think you've answered that question. Is there any? Have you determined in your own mind that we're going to we're going to build a third high school?
I kind of see the next phase as giving us the opportunity to utilize the capacity we have to be able to plot and plan and position ourselves for that next phase, whether that's a third high school, whether that's population shift and balancing the population, whether that's expanding campus at Hoover High School.
Okay.
I see the next 5 years being putting ourselves in a position to be able to accomplish that in somewhere down the road.
Okay, I hope this is my last question. And thank you, by the way, for your patience with my ignorance on finances. But the fact that we use some of the 24 mil money as operating expenses, let's take that for a fact. Has that fact in some way impeded or delayed a third high school?
The analogy I'd like to make there is if you look at our expenditure per student, it's on that last page of that handout. Look down at the bottom, spending per student. What that calculation in effect does is narrows down how much we spend per student without taking into consideration debt service and capital outlay. So it takes that out. You can see by this comparison we earn an A in our state with regard to how much we spend. If you compare that number to, it's lower than Mountain Brook, it's lower than Homewood per student. Don't know, not sure about Vestavia. You can see it earns us a B+ in the southeast. So we're spending, we earn an A in our state. I'm not sure exactly what that says, but when you can compare us to other systems that seem to be realizing success, and we're still not spending, I think indication is there we're investing in the classroom, because again that takes out that amount of money. And the 24 mil fund does put us in a funding position, unlike most in the state.
We're very fortunate.
Right.
Very, very fortunate. And you don't need to miss the point that the two other school systems you named have significantly less students than we have. They don't have the same problems we have. They're like closed little communities, not as diverse. Thank you.